Good evening, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. How do I sound there, Surf Girl? Good evening, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. It sounds like I sound good now. Awesome. 5x5. That's awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We're going to forego the Pledge of Allegiance right now because we want to get right into our story. Those of you who will be watching this program are going to be wanting to get into Tucker Carlson's interview with President Putin a little bit later. So we're going to get right into this program right now. Folks, we appreciate you being here. First off, on January 14th, there was an eruption of the Grindavik volcano. Actually, I shouldn't even say the Grindavik. There was an eruption of the volcano over in Iceland. A large eruption. Today, the volcano erupted for the third time since December. Actually, I should say since November. I believe it erupted back in November last year. It's been erupting ever since, off and on. This is the third eruption we've had of the volcano over near Grindavik. This time the volcano erupted just about a mile and 3/4 northeast, or actually northwest of Grindavik. If you look at this volcano right now, you look at this fissure that opened up. The fissure opened up highly just like this. This is how it started erupting this morning, early this morning. It hit the magma underneath the ground, hit the water table, and caused somewhat of an explosion. A big explosion. You can see steam in this picture going up hundreds of feet into the air. A lot of ash occurred with this eruption this morning, but after the eruption got going and an entire fissure opened up, the ash pretty much slowed down and stopped. This eruption could have been a lot more deadly. It came out of the ground like this, a huge fissure eruption. Quite a few people were watching it. It was early this morning, right before dawn this morning. Incredible eruption this morning in the southwestern part of Iceland, north of Grindavik. The eruption of the Slingerfall volcano began at 6 a.m. local time on Thursday, today, 6 a.m. Soon after, an intense burst of seismic energy happened right before the eruption. The strength of the eruption had been decreased by noon today. It is petering out now. We don't know how long this eruption is going to last. The past two eruptions lasted several days. This may also last a little while, but like I said, it's gradually petering out right now. The lava is continuing to spew forth from parts of the fissure. A huge plume of steam, like I showed you a minute ago, rose over a section of the crack that opened up. Magma mixed with groundwater causing an explosion. The eruption site is about 4 kilometers, 2.5 miles northeast of Grindavik, a coastal town of approximately 3,800 people. It was a fishing village until it was closed down just about January 18th was the last time it erupted. Right before it erupted last time, they evacuated the citizens. The first time it erupted, they let the citizens be evacuated. 2 days before Christmas, December 23rd, they allowed the citizens of Grindavik back in. Sunday night, right before the last eruption, there were a large amount of earthquakes under Grindavik. The authorities asked the citizens of Grindavik to evacuate once more. Then the volcano erupted again. The citizens have not been back in town since. That was December 18th. There's no immediate town threat now. Again, I'm going to repeat. There's no immediate threat to Grindavik today. Civil defense officials said no one was believed to be in Grindavik at the time of this new eruption. The only people that have been allowed into Grindavik were authorities that were checking on homes to make sure they still had water, to make sure that the foundations were not opened up by cracks underneath the foundation. Fountains of lava in southwest Iceland is the third eruption since December. As I showed you, spectacular footage from the Reykjanes Peninsula showed molten rock oozing along a fissure estimated to be 3 kilometers, 1.86 miles long. This was near Slingerfell, Iceland. Plumes of lava shot more than 50 kilometers, 160 feet into the air. This was witnessed by a Coast Guard helicopter that I showed you on this last episode of this program this afternoon. The helicopter flied low over the peninsula earlier today. The nearby town of Grindavik was already evacuated, like I said. Guests over at the popular Blue Lagoon geothermal spa were asked to evacuate right before this eruption today. The Blue Lagoon Thermal Spa is very popular. A lot of people have been there. And this time they evacuated it again. The Blue Lagoon Spa was created using excess water from the power plant, the geothermal power plant that harvests steam from the volcano here and transfers the steam to turbines at the facility. There's 36 turbines there. I've counted them. In past episodes of this program, I showed you the turbines at Svartsengi, where the power plant is. But the power plant lets go the excessive steam and water, which gives the Blue Lagoon Spa the geothermal feel and allows people to bask in the geothermal healing waters of the volcano. Today, a stream of steaming lava later spread across the exit road from the spa. If the authorities had not gotten the guests out of the Blue Lagoon before the eruption, it is highly likely that they would not be able to leave now. There have been no flight disruptions reported near Keflavik Airport, Iceland's main airport, but the hot water was cut off at the airport. The Icelandic Met Office earlier this week warned of a possible eruption after monitoring a buildup of magma or semi-molten rock beneath the surface for the past 3 weeks. Hundreds of small earthquakes have been measured around Grindavik and the area since Friday, capped by a burst of intense seismic activity about 30 minutes before the latest eruption happened. Dramatic video from Iceland's Coast Guard showed fountains of lava, like I showed you, soaring over 160 feet in the air. A plume of vapor rose about 3 kilometers, 1.5 miles above the volcano. Workers rushed to lay an underground water pipe as a backup to what residents of Iceland already had as lava reached the pipeline that supplies several towns for the Reykjanes Peninsula. The pipeline supplies water, hot water, to the homes in Grindavik and other communities, as well as the rest of the island of Iceland. Today, crews laid other pipes to keep the hot water flowing. Otherwise, homes all over the island would have been cut off. Authorities urged residents to use hot water and electricity sparingly. Schools, gyms, and swimming pools were shut down because of the lack of heat and water. Dave McGarvey, who is a volcanologist that I have spoken to in the past, has worked extensively in Iceland. He said it's highly unlikely the gentle effusive eruption would disrupt aviation because such volcanoes as we have here in Iceland produce only a tiny amount of ash. Grindavik, about 50 kilometers, 30 miles southwest of Iceland's capital of Reykjavik, was evacuated in November. When the Svartsengi volcanic system awakened after almost 800 years with a series of earthquakes that opened up large cracks in the earth north of town, and opened up not just large cracks north of town, but fissures that opened up with lava. The fissures reached the town of Grindavik. I want to show you what happened there today, or back in January 18th. The lava reached the northern part of Grindavik. The earthen wall that had been erected right before this rush of lava hit Grindavik partially protected Grindavik. It kept a lot of the other homes and buildings safe. The eruption today will not reach Grindavik because the wall has been finished around Grindavik. There's a very good possibility that no other damage will ever happen to Grindavik unless an eruption happens within the town itself. The volcano eventually erupted on December 18th, sending lava flowing away from Grindavik. However, December 23rd, because of that eruption not reaching Grindavik, they allowed residents back in until after January 18th, when they evacuated again because the lava erupted twice in two different places at that point in time. They evacuated the town right before that lava would have reached Grindavik. Defensive walls have been bolstered since then after the first eruption stopped some of the flow. But several buildings were consumed by the lava that I'm showing you here. And the land in town is sunk by more than 1.5 meters deep. Approximately 4.5 feet deep. Why? Let me show you briefly what happened. The magma underneath Grindavik left Grindavik, which meant that instead of having molten magma down beneath the town of Grindavik, all of a sudden that empty reservoir of magma is no longer there. And as a result of the magma, it rose the town up higher. When the magma left, the ground sunk again. Imagine yourself being raised high 3.5 to 4.5 feet higher than normal. And then having that ground in Grindavik sink or subside. That's what happened now. The magma has gone north. There has been talk before this eruption happened that there might be a volcanic eruption at Reykjavik, which is the capital of Iceland. They're presently building a wall around Reykjavik as we speak. There have been no deaths as a direct result of any of these volcanic eruptions. One workman in Grindavik is still missing and presumed dead after falling into a fissure that opened up in Grindavik. The officials in Grindavik have lowered 3 men in a basket down into the fissure. One of the men that was working with a tamper. A tamper is a machine that tamps the earth down, solidifying a base of earth. He was tamping that earth down when he was captured within the earth itself. and sunk down into the fissure and was gone. They worked for almost a week to dig down in there to try to retrieve his body, and they were unsuccessful. Workmen were sent down into the fissure with a basket with that tamping device again. And while that man was tamping that earth, all of a sudden, the earth swallowed him up. It's unclear whether residents of Greenvik will ever be able to return permanently. Now officials are saying that they may allow residents back in on March 18th. That still remains to be seen. At the moment, and this is my opinion, there is the resignation, the stoical resignation that for the foreseeable future, the town is basically uninhabitable. But again, there is talk in some circles that they may reopen it March 18th. After centuries of quiet, people thought that this area was fairly safe. It's been a bit of a shock to most of the people that the volcano has come back to life. This is evidence that has been gathered quite recently that the eruptions could go on for decades, if not even centuries. The earthquakes and the volcanic eruption could sporadically still happen anywhere along the Reykjanes Peninsula. Both the previous eruptions lasted only a matter of days, but they signal what Icelandic President Gundi Johansson said is a daunting period of upheaval. A daunting period of upheaval on the Reykjanes Peninsula, one of the most densely populated parts of Iceland. Most of the disruptive events in recent times were the 2010 eruption of the Eyjafjallajökull volcano, which is just north and east of Greenvik. North and east of Greenvik. It is a major volcano, and unfortunately, I didn't find a picture before I went on the air tonight of that volcano. But that particular volcano is covered by glacial ice now, most of the year. Most of the year. When it erupted in 2010, it erupted with such force, the ash and toxic gases erupted up into the stratosphere, 50 to 85,000 feet high. And as a result of that eruption, and the ash from that eruption, the widespread airspace from Iceland into Europe was closed. It was closed from the entire world. Europe had no airspace to fly in. If jetliners were to fly into that airspace during an eruption, their air intakes would clog the jet plane engines, causing a failure of the plane and causing the plane to crash. We hope that doesn't happen again. It's now been 13 years since that volcano erupted. Iceland itself sits above a volcanic hotspot in the North Atlantic. We talked about that hotspot. We talked about the other fissures that have opened up in Iceland as well. Iceland is right smack dab sitting over the top of the Mid-Atlantic Fault System. The Mid-Atlantic Fault System is opening up. It is expanding. It is expanding. The Mid-Atlantic Fault is pushing Europe and Africa in an easterly direction. The same fault line, the Mid-Atlantic Fault, is pushing North America in a southwesterly direction. The center of the Mid-Atlantic Fault is expanding. Iceland is expanding, which may be the cause of some of the fissures that opened up in central Iceland. Now, I'm going to leave Iceland for now. I want to talk about the Super Stallion helicopter that went missing from Clark County, Nevada. Efforts were underway today to recover the remains of 5 U.S. Marines who were killed when their helicopter went down during stormy weather in the mountains just southeast of San Diego City. Authorities said the CH-53E Super Stallion helicopter had vanished late Tuesday night while conducting a flight training exercise on their way back to Marine Corps Air Station Miramar in San Diego. They were flying from Creech Air Force Base northwest of Las Vegas. Creech spelled C-R-E-E-C-H Air Force Base northwest of Las Vegas. The Major General who is over the 3rd Department of Marine Aircraft Wing, the Flying Tigers, his name's Major General Michael J. Borgschult, said, "It is with a heavy heart and profound sadness that I share the loss of these 5 outstanding Marines from the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing outside of Las Vegas. Per military policy, the names of the Marines are not released until 24 hours after all the next of kin have been notified. The 5 Marines were assigned to the Marine Heavy Helicopter Squadron 361, Marine Aircraft Group 16 of the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing at Miramar. The military is still investigating the crash, and Captain Stephanie Luguzman, that's how her name is pronounced, Luguzman, who's a spokesman for the Air Wing, said she had little information beyond this statement. But she noted that recovery efforts were being hampered by snowfall from the historic storm that was moving out of California today. She said, quote, "I do know that it's cold, and I know there's been a continuous effort for searchers to reach the crash scene. Search teams have been searching ever since yesterday for the aircraft, once the storm let up." Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin also expressed his condolences and said his prayers are with the loved ones of these brave Marines. He said the entire Defense Department and the nation mourns their loss. As the Marine Corps investigates this deadly crash, it is yet another reminder that our nation and our world, our selfless service members, put their lives on the line every day to keep our country safe. Our service members represent the best of our nations, and these 5 Marines were no exception. The last known contact with the Super Stallion helicopter, which happens to be the largest helicopter in the military, and it's designed to fly in bad weather. The last known contact was at 11:30 p.m. Tuesday night, when waves of downpour and snow were hitting the region. Mike Cornett of the California Department of Forestry and Fire Prevention said that the location was based on a ping that was reported to Cal Fire Dispatch Center Tuesday night. The craft was discovered Wednesday morning near Pine Valley, California. I showed you a map of where Pine Valley is located. It's about an hour's drive, 45 miles from the city of San Diego. The mountain community of Pine Valley is located at about 3,700 feet above sea level, approximately 1,127 meters high in elevation in the Cuyamaca Mountains. When we talked about earthquakes in Southern California, we talked about the Cuyamaca Mountains. The Cuyamaca Mountains are part of the Chocolate Mountains that some of you might have seen when you've seen the Top Gun first movie. This area is an area that saw as much as 8 inches, 20 centimeters of accumulating snow within hours Tuesday night into early Wednesday, and even more snow falling last night. The area includes San Diego County's highest mountain range, Cuyamaca Peak, at 6,512 feet high, approximately 1,985 meters high. It's also located in the Cleveland National Forest, which covers 720 square miles, approximately 1,860 square kilometers, with much of it steep, rocky, with limited trails. I spent many hours in the Cuyamaca Mountains hiking with my Boy Scouts when I was a Scoutmaster, and even more hours spent there when I was an Assistant District Commissioner for the Boy Scouts. Marines fly this CH model Stallion helicopter in most challenging environments. You can think of it, said Timothy Loranger, who is a former Marine Corps aircraft mechanic and now a civilian pilot and a lawyer who specializes in aviation crashes. Timothy Loranger said, but even knowing that, it's important for those making the decisions to decide whether the risk is worth it. This was a training mission, with the crew flying back home from Nevada to Miramar Marine Corps Air Station. So you have to ask yourselves, why fly in this weather now? The weather must have been somewhat bad in Nevada, as during this same time period, Las Vegas was experiencing squalls and flooding in downtown Las Vegas. Was this a poor judgment or some pilot error issue? We don't know. These are the very important questions that have to be asked. A mechanical issue in bad weather would make flying even harder. And while designed for bad weather, ice accumulation on rotor blades could disrupt the ability to create lift for the helicopter and cause it to crash. All this will be part of the investigation. And adding that it is right now too early to even speculate on what occurred. The Super Stallion has a long history of being reliable, but it's not perfect. The Super Stallion has been used in combat and other operations around the world for even more than 3 decades. It's been used in Beirut, Somalia, the Persian Gulf, Afghanistan, Iraq, and even Libya. Now I want to share something with you. Just a little bit earlier today, I received an email from Governor Abbott of Texas. He said, there is still so much more work to be done to defend our border and restore law and order at the border, Ronald Tyler. He mentioned my name. To keep Texas and America safe, we must and we cannot let our guard up. We need you to show your support for Texas and the ongoing border security mission. Our fight for a secure border is taking place in the courtrooms as well as along our southern border. The Biden administration has slammed Texas with lawsuit after lawsuit just for exercising our sovereign right to defend our border. Help me send a message to the American people that we want to stop the wasteful lawsuits and to start securing our border. Until Joe Biden steps up to do his job, Texas will continue stepping up to fill the dangerous gap that his border policies have created. Knowing we have your support means so much more now, more than ever. So thank you for stepping up with your most generous contribution of going on the air talking about what's more important for our nation, no matter what happens. We appreciate you. Sincerely, Governor Greg Abbott, Governor of Texas. That was his letter to me earlier today in an email. Now, before I leave, I've been leaving you with a spiritual message after our broadcasts have been finished. I'm going to get out of here within the next 8 minutes, so everybody that wants to can listen to Tucker Carlson's broadcast with an interview with President Putin from Russia. I want to ask everyone a question. Most of you might have an answer to this question. Where can you find true and lasting happiness? In the scriptures we're taught, quote, Adam fell that men might be, and men are that they might have joy. At times it can be very easily to be caught up in what the world says will bring us happiness. Here is the grand truth. Let's talk about the grand truth for a second. Let me show you a picture here. I thought I had this picture already loaded into the broadcast software. At times, it can be very easy to be caught up in what the world says will bring us happiness. Here is the grand truth. While the world insists that power, possessions, popularity, and even pleasures of the flesh bring happiness, they do not. They can't. What they do produce is nothing but a hollow substitute for the blessed and happy state of those who keep the commandments of God. Here are the ways that we can find enduring happiness. Lasting joy is found in keeping the commandments of God. And the commandments of God are found in the gospel of Jesus Christ. We can find joy as we love others with the pure love of Christ. We can share truth. We store truth with them and invite others to gather with the covenant people. We should not be afraid that the trials and challenges that we inevitably face in mortality will prevent or destroy our joy. We should not be afraid. The scriptures teach, choose you this day whom ye will serve. In Joshua it reads, and if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye shall serve. Whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Above my office door here, just about above my office door, I've got that same scripture above my office door. Choose ye this day whom ye shall serve. Me and my house will serve the Lord. It is by choosing Jesus Christ, the King of Kings, that we choose the kingdom of God. Any other choice will ultimately fail us. Brothers and sisters, that is my message to you tonight. Choose God. Make sure you choose God and stand up for what is right, what is true, what will always be right, what will never fail us. People will fail us. God won't. Choose the scriptures and find out all you can about God. Then turn to God for true happiness. Brothers and sisters, I leave that message with you, humbly, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. I'm going to let you go now and watch Tucker Carlson. NCWQ Explorer says it's staticky. I'm sorry. Hopefully this won't continue. We're now broadcasting at 2,673 kilobytes per second. That's pretty good bandwidth. God bless you. God be with you this day and always. God be with you until we meet again tomorrow. We will see you same time, same bat station tomorrow evening. God be with you until we meet again. Have a good night, folks. God bless. See you soon. Good night. Good evening, folks. This is Ron Tyler with the Emergency Management Associates. Folks, this is Ron Tyler with the Emergency Management Associates coming to you live from the crossroads of the West in Utah. The time right now is 7:05 p.m.
Barely clear on the backside of the Sunday, and the Earth is rotated at 8 hitting the Earth is located around 3.5 miles southeast of the Earth now. The solar wind is also